Do you actually need an app? It might sound like a stupid question, especially when I actually build apps for a living, but often I don't actually think they're necessary. Speaking from experience, I had a startup that completely flopped to the point where I lost all my savings and I had to ask one of my friends to help me with rent. So reflecting back, this is very obvious now, but hopefully sharing this with you, you can avoid my mistakes. Really, there's two types of apps. There are golden era apps and there are service interface apps. The golden era. We are not in the golden era anymore. It is gone. The golden era is the gold rush. It was when the internet first existed, came out, and people are not entirely sure how to use it. We have all the tools, but it's not been utilized to the extent where everyone's all on top of it. This was a time of raw potential and information arbitrage. Because it was so difficult to get access to certain things, or the barrier of entry to making your own content and consuming was so high, you simply bridging that gap was enough for people to use your service. So if you think about it, Instagram is valuable because I have billions of users, but it's kind of just a photo app. So what makes it so valuable? And to be honest, it's kind of to do with the timing. So it's valuable now because there's so many people on it adding content. But the reason it was valuable at the time is previously, if you wanted to share images, you'd have to blog or build a website. Like there wasn't an interface that you could easily go on and upload. And also for consuming, like you have to follow someone's blog or go to their website. It wasn't that simple. So the information arbitrage was that, wow, I have all this filtered information in front of me I can access easily. But now it's kind of been saturated. There's not really information we can't access in one form or the other. And when people make information arbitrage services now, I just kind of think it's a waste of resources, because the hard thing isn't necessarily having a platform to access the information. It's the curation aspect, and it's a different problem. I'm not actually going to be talking much about the golden era. The point is, the golden era was because of information arbitrage, and it's no longer a thing. Now we have service interface apps. Can't believe I forgot that. These are value focused or hardware specific, and they are basically the conduit to a pre-existing business. So when I say hardware specific, Uber's an example, because if you want to order a cab to where you are, I'm not going to take my laptop out after being in the club. It's one of the only things that I keep on me at all times, and it has location services built in. Uber would only make sense on the phone, and it basically is a normal service business, right? Like obviously it works a bit different with freelancing, but fundamentally it's a time one business. It's taxis. The reason you need a time one business or a solid value proposition before building an app now is because the barrier to entry for using an app. Using an app is harder than using a website, because you have to go on the app store, you have to download it, you have to wait 2-3 minutes, then you have to sign in. Web apps are a lot easier, and it's more convenient. I'm not saying don't make an app, I'm saying don't make just an app and think that's enough, because that's not the world we live in anymore. So personal anecdote, the app that my startup built was originally a product curation app, essentially. So it started off as fashion, but ended up becoming interior design inspo as well, and we'd have various retailers that we download their products. I think we had like 750,000 products at the time. And the idea was you could go through this list of products, you could add them to your own personal list, and this would automatically generate a website whereby if someone saw it and went on it, it would get commission off anything they bought. So it was kind of, the idea was tapping into affiliate marketing. It kind of worked at first, but we realized for how we wanted to grow the app, we weren't getting enough users, and we pivoted to more of a social model where people could go on, and it was like a social media. You would share the products that you liked, other people would see it, they could also buy. So it was kind of a blend of the two approaches. So we thought our value was providing a platform whereby people could upload and shop for interior, their new interior design. Hindsight 2020, what we were building was a community of interior design enthusiasts with an easier option to purchase. The idea was we got a cut of whatever users bought on the platform, and then over time we'd also build a very strong catalog of purchasing data, which we could then use to upsell or use different products. But the hard part of what we were doing is we were trying to get people onto a new platform, whereas if what we were actually doing was just building a community, making it easier to purchase things, why didn't we use existing platforms? Like, for example, building an Instagram following of people that are into designing inspo, and then through Instagram make it easier for them to purchase things. The thing is, that's really not sexy, which is probably why we didn't do it, to be honest, especially when you're a startup and you're trying to get the next raise. But we would have basically had unlimited time to solve what is a much simpler problem, which is building a community. Whereas us thinking we need to build an app, we started onboarding some very complicated architectural and scaling problems, and we weren't even dealing with what the root was, which is curating a community that was into what we were trying to sell. We raised 250,000, and the app probably cost us 150. So like I was working on it full time, which obviously I have to eat, I was getting paid. We had, was it like 6 to 10 engineers over the time period? They would contract, so it would fluctuate. It was working well depending on the workload. And there was like hosting costs, there was development tools, but it folded the company. You heard about my financial situation before, like I kind of lost everything. And the problems we were trying to solve already been solved by Instagram, right? And it's like, how can we make it easy for people to discover and browse? And it's even the social between like, how do we keep them engaged with what they're seeing on the platform? It's like Instagram kind of already had this. We just wanted to own the users, but moving them to a different platform takes so much work. Imagine the business model whereby we grew an audience on Instagram, and then from there we funnel people into a private chat like a Slack or a Discord. Imagine how much easier that would have been. And imagine the 150K we spent on an app was just our marketing budget. Like, life would have been 100 times easier. We would have definitely made money, and it probably wouldn't have folded because the overheads would have been so low. The main lesson that I really learned from that is people do not have free attention. Everyone's attention is already spent. When someone's on their phone, they're not just staring at their home screen, they're on an app. You have to get people's attention away from what they're doing. And one of the best ways is integrating with them. Like, if you can use a different platform to try and get people's attention, that's great, Like, back in the day, you used to run ads in a newspaper. You did try and print your own newspaper so you could have your own ads. Like, it doesn't make sense. Use the places people have already spent attention to get them interested in what you're doing, and then slowly take them away with actual value. Don't try and replace something that already works for them. In conclusion, I am not against apps. I actually have the app studio. I think they have their place. I just think it's not the golden era, and it's different. It's not a conduit for a pre-existing business. Even though I say there's no information arbitrage, Notion came out recently, which is a different way to format your information in a much easier visual way, and that's popular. So it's not that you can't make apps that work purely on information. It's that it's a little bit tricky to do, and you need to be value first. Just speaking for myself, Silicon Valley really made me think I had to do some groundbreaking new product, or attack an angle from something no one's done. But it's kind of new business principles, and there's definitely a place for it. But the old business principles, which have worked for thousands of years, is just, hey, what do people already want? Can you make it faster? Can you make it cheaper? I learned the new way before learning the old one, and I'm kind of still paying for that and playing catch up with all the stuff. So I'm not saying you don't need an app, just there are cheaper ways to validate what you're doing. You don't have to be a 360 solution, which you often try and do with an app. You can just provide a specific value and then work with other platforms. You might think, oh, but we don't own the data. It's true, but you also don't own the problems. And if you can focus on what it is you do and make the profit margins make sense, everyone's actually happier, because users get to use a superior product because there's guys that focus on this exclusively, and you get to focus far more on what it is that you're trying to provide value in. So, food for thought.